in the Big Ten compete on the road. I heard a huge "Let's Go Hawks" chant in the first quarter of the game. 11 a.m. at Pinnacle Bank Arena, Lincoln. Could be a little bit of a sleepy time. It was not a sleepy time for Iowa, who started out hot. What were your initial reactions to that game?
I think the biggest thing that I noticed with that game is Iowa looked so free. They played like they were starting to play against Ohio State not too long ago. And that was huge, especially after that 3-game skid where that team looked pretty timid, especially with the adjustments to Taylor McCabe. So I was really impressed with how Iowa was able to make the adjustments since that bye week they had that win against Washington, which was also really big. And that just has worked and snowballed really nicely in their favor. Yeah, who needs to have an extra cup of coffee in the morning when you can just go out and lead by almost 30 points at one point in Nebraska?
Yeah, I think that's a sign of great coaching. Jan Jensen got her team ready, and there's nothing, that's not to say Amy Williams isn't a great coach, because she is. This is an impressive win, and Jan Jensen will tell you that. But they got up 20-8, and they were just better early, and they held on late. Nebraska had a bit of a run in the fourth quarter, but Iowa came out guns blazing. There was a crowd there that not capacity, but the fans out in Lincoln they're pretty loud. Taylor Stremlow had 17 points. She was impressive. Ava Hayden was awesome. 27 points, tying a career high. And overall, she's a big contributor for Iowa, shooting 60.4% from the field. I was also impressed with their defense over the last 2 games. Remember a couple weeks ago, or was it last week, we were talking about Iowa giving up something like 70% from behind the arc to Minnesota? Since then, they've been a lot better guarding the three-point line. Nebraska shooting 21% from behind the arc. Britt Prince, who averages 18.8 points per game, had just 13. Your thoughts on their defensive effort, and then we can talk a little Ava Hayden, because she's kind of the lead story in this one with 27 points and a double-double.
She absolutely is. But I do think with the defense, one thing we're noticing is we're seeing the adjustments that Iowa's really implemented since that week-long break. When McCaleb went out, Iowa really struggled there for a little bit because it was a new adjustment. It was a new lineup. The Hawkeyes had been very consistent in their rotation throughout the entire season. And the reality is that McCabe was providing a lot of defensive effort that Iowa needed in that West Coast road trip, and they had to make an adjustment, and then again in the loss to Minnesota too right after. So that week-long break, you could see the adjustments that were made and how they were able to bounce back so that they were able to have such a great defensive performance. And then when you have an individual effort like Ava Hayden, it stands out regardless.
Yeah, and the defense, by the way, Joanna Mance, who could not be here, texted me. I asked her some of her thoughts. First thing she said, Kylie Feuerbach with 4 exclamation marks, holding Britt Prince to that low number. Really impressive. The person, though, who commands the stat sheet and really commands the attention against Nebraska is Ava Hayden. I know the most improved player award doesn't really exist in the world of women's basketball, but Ava Hayden should be a leading candidate because the way she's improved offensively has been tremendous. Ice Young, who's on the game doing color commentary, compared her favorably with Megan Gustafson. And I think that's true. She's similar to Gustafson, similar to Monica Sonano, where there's just no dribble, one dribble maybe. She's able to put it off the window, and the big-to-big passing with Hannah Stolke is really impressive. There you see those numbers, 27 points, tying a career high. She's such a presence in the paint, but the outside shooting, outside meaning, 15 feet away, not exactly three-point shots, but it's really impressive, and it obviously makes her game, stretches it out a little bit more and makes her even harder to guard. And she's pretty hard to guard as it is.
Yes, she is very hard to guard. And I think you mentioned it with her being one of the most improved athletes. You can see it. You watched film from the very beginning of the year. You see it now. 2 entirely different athletes on the court with how they've performed so far this year. I've been really impressed with what she's been able to do and how consistent she's become. She's become such a consistent, knowledgeable presence. She's able to read so much on the court. She's able to help facilitate as needed chit-chat, right? Obviously doing the majority as the point guard, but she does such a good job of going to that second action, going to that third action as it's needed, and that's been so beneficial to this offense.
Yeah, and another beneficial person who's been benefiting from Chit Chat Right and from Ava Hayden is Hannah Stolke, who's really able to basically do what she does, which is play the power forward position, score well. She had 9 points and 6 rebounds against Nebraska. The game I really wanted to highlight was against Washington, where she had a double-double, 14 points, 16 rebounds. Look, I don't think Stolke is in the same she's not exactly the same player as a Monica Czinano, a Megan Gustafson, or an Ava Hayden. We thought maybe after her freshman year she could be like the heir apparent to Czinano, and all the Iowa fans, of course, know Czinano, how good she is. Stolke's kind of a different breed as the power forward, and I think she's really settled into her role, and you really saw that against Washington. I know you were at this game. What were you impressed most about with Stolke and the team as a whole against the Huskies?
I think the biggest thing was just her confidence. You could see how confident she was on the court, how much she was commanding Washington's attention. She did not let anything really get by, and that really benefited her in that game, because the reality is Washington was trying to find other ways to get a stop. They were trying to find it, and she was able to make an adjustment quickly. She was able to find a pass, get open. Her off-ball movement really stood out to me against Washington, and when you have somebody with that level of maturity who can step up in those games and kind of help take over, especially when the Hawkeyes needed a win like the one against Washington, having Hannah be able to make those kinds of adjustments and have that performance was huge, especially in setting up today's game.
Yeah, couple more topics to get through on the women. You have the guards, who I thought played really, really well. Taylor Stremo, loved her energy, 17 points. And Chit Chat Wright. Chit Chat has just been a revelation for these Hawkeyes. It's not only she runs the point and she's kind of a little guard, she passes quite well and she dribbles quite well. The way she shoots the ball is unbelievable. 7 of 11 from behind the arc. She does whatever the offense needs, whether it's passing or, like you see, shooting. 5 of 8 from behind the arc against Washington. She had 21 points, which led the team. Chit Chat, for you, what impressed you most about Chit Chat?
I've said it before on this show, but her confidence to take the shot as a pass first guard has really impressed me. And that's something that Jan Jensen had said at the beginning of the year, that Chit Chat is really somebody who wants to facilitate the offense and not necessarily be the one to shoot the ball. And you're seeing her grow so confident in her shot, especially beyond the arc, especially with those well-timed shots. She knows that she's able to find a lane. She's such a smart point guard too as well. I think she's able to see things develop maybe even before everyone else is recognizing what's happening, and she's taking advantage of that. Yeah. And I mean, we could talk about her confidence and just her ability to just take that shot when she sees it, but it is so impressive how Jan Jensen and the rest of this coaching staff has really given her the ability to say, if you see it, take it. We trust you and we want you to do it. And she's ran with that.
There's a certain level of confidence that Jan Jensen and her coaching staff can give to her players.
Absolutely.
The youngest player we're going to talk about in this block is Journey Houston. And we got a really interesting question about Houston. What do you see as her role going forward, as in a position? I think, in short, she's going to be a 4, maybe a stretch 4, a big I just don't see her as a 5. Maybe rather a big 3 than a 4. She's more in the Hannah Stolke role than the Ava Hayden role, if that makes sense. Her physicality, I love that about her. She skies for an offensive rebound every time she comes off the bench. And she went 5 of 7 with 10 points against Nebraska. She's a freshman, so it doesn't all happen at once for her. Like it doesn't happen all at once for any freshman, but it's starting to click for Journey.
It absolutely is, and I think that's what's been so fun about this team, is that as young as they are, we've reached the point in the season where you're starting to see that potential show up a little bit more consistently. At the beginning of the year, with how young this roster was, we'd seen flashes, but it was always a concern of how soon were we going to see that become consistent. We're seeing that with Journey very, very much now. And I think I have to agree with you where it could be a little bit of a stretch. I think her versatility, though, bodes really, really well for her. She's physical. She can shoot from distance. Has great off-ball movement, and she's fearless. That really gives Jan Jensen a lot of options here. But I do see her kind of leaning more towards that 4, maybe 3 spot. I don't really necessarily see her at the 5, especially considering Ava Hayden's a sophomore, and she's kind of been pretty dominant in the paint, as we've already talked about.
Yeah, so far. All right, since we last spoke, it's been a tough 2 games for the Iowa men's basketball team. We're going to talk about it next on Iowa Live. Welcome back to On Iowa Live. We're talking a little Iowa men's hoops next with Cedar Rapids Gazette reporter Madison Horitzik. Since we last spoke, Iowa has gone 0-2. They got shelled by the Terrapins. They got railroaded by the Boilermakers. Pun absolutely intended. Purdue 78, Iowa 57. That's our most recent game. And it's a tough one for Iowa, as Purdue's a good team, but you don't want to lose by double digits at home. Quickly, let's answer an audience question, and that'll lead us into our discussion about Purdue. It comes from Glenn. The Iowa men proved at Iowa State and Purdue they are capable of hanging with top 10 teams. Were the last two outings results more mental or physical? So let's focus specifically on the game against Purdue. What do you think were Iowa's biggest lapses?
I think there's two elements to this, and I actually think it's both mental and physical. Let's start with a little bit more of the physical side. Iowa does opt for a more defensive forward starting five. That is what Ben McCollum has said. He actually said it earlier this morning during his media availability ahead of tomorrow's game against Nebraska. One of the hard parts about that is these slow starts that the Hawkeyes have been having, where if you have a defensive set front five, but the shots aren't immediately falling, it becomes a little bit of an issue, because then you run into a snowball effect of, okay, we're not able to get stops because, there might be a little bit of a talent gap, especially when you face some of the blue bloods of the Big Ten, like Purdue, like Michigan State, where the talent and just sometimes just the general physique is just a little bit better. And it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. I mean, this is almost essentially an entire program rebuild. Do I think that it was a very, very difficult pill for Iowa to swallow on Saturday, losing like that to Purdue? Absolutely. But I also would say that I think that it's not the end of the world. I don't think it's time to fully hit the panic button on this men's team just yet. I think because there's still opportunities to get a signature win. Those still exist, especially when they play Nebraska twice in the span of about 3 weeks coming up starting tomorrow.
Yeah, and I agree in that sense, because these losses and some of the stats you see, especially against Purdue, they're not like bang your head against the wall stats. Iowa only had 6 turnovers. The Hawkeyes were -1 in offensive rebounds, which against a team like Purdue, you have to be happy about. So really the question was what happened. For me, I think it was just some of the players not named Bennett Sturch just couldn't really knock down shots. Iowa was 11 of 17 from the free throw line. That doesn't help. But then inside the arc, Hawkeyes were 14 of 31. Ben McCollum's teams usually emphasize dunks, layups, and threes. So you almost never see those types of misses. And defensively against Purdue, all you have to do is watch the highlights for like 2 or 3 minutes. If you close out just a second late on a Purdue shooter, you're done. Matt Painter's teams are going to kill you like that. And also, this is not really a basketball thing. It's more of a crowd thing, but you'll understand where I'm saying. The crowd was sold out against Purdue. The crowd had been an issue the last couple years at Iowa. You have to live up to that crowd by starting fast. And in the game against Illinois earlier this year and the game against Purdue last Saturday, Iowa did not do that.
Yeah, it definitely makes it hard. It absolutely does. And I think if you're a fan, if you're starting to kind of get into this men's basketball team, you went to that Purdue game being like, oh my gosh, this men's team, they're doing well. They seem to have a good head coach kind of leading this program. And then you go when you watch this Purdue game and you almost kind of sit back and go, oh, okay. It's a little jarring in that sense. I think one thing that McCollum has done a really good job about is making it clear since this sellout was announced way back at the beginning of the month that one sellout won't dictate how he feels about the program, about he feels about rebuilding this program. It's not necessarily about getting everyone to go to their very first sellout. It's about making sure that they come back eventually. Now, the loss against Purdue certainly makes it a little bit more difficult, but he's been so consistent in his ability to find ways to rally his team. He's done it before. He's admitted it that, those kinds of losses like the one we saw on Saturday don't happen very often to him. It's not a feeling he likes. But I think that also helps really nicely moving forward because there's a lot of quad one opportunities. There's a lot of chances for Iowa to be able to start fixing those slower starts and making them into faster starts. It's just a matter of can somebody other than Bennett Sturts get going early? And that has been this lingering issue. I think one thing that will be extremely interesting is that McCollum didn't necessarily rule out a lineup change when we spoke to him this morning. He switched up the second half starting lineup. He put in Isaiah Howard and Alvaro Fulgaris to start the second half against Purdue. I don't know for certain if we're going to see a change to the starting five against Nebraska. Would it surprise me? Not really. I think anything's on the table at this point.
Yeah, just a little reset on the numbers for Iowa. They're still 27th in the net. That's not bad. And ESPN projects them to be an 8 seed in their latest bracketology projections. I think a lot of that is just the love these national media members have for Bennett Sturtz, because when you hear Iowa in 2026, you think Bennett Sturtz. He was a hyped guy coming into the season, and he has kind of lived up to the hype with 2 30-point performances against Northwestern and then against Maryland. He was a little down against Purdue for sure. But when your down game is a 19-point effort going 7 of 12 from the field with 0 turnovers in 38 minutes, you're certainly pretty happy with yourself. But the thing is about Sturtz, he can't all do it alone. And the supporting actors, it's hard to call them that, the role players. I've been impressed with them all year long, but at a certain point, you gotta just hit shots. Tavion Banks obviously is huge in the middle, and Alvaro Fulgaris is both good inside and outside. But it's the consistency I feel like that's been lacking for them. I'm not going to go back on what I said last week, which is that these players are really good in their role. But at a certain point, you just have to hit shots at a much higher clip.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that makes this such an interesting stretch for Iowa, is that it's not necessarily that any single player at any point is a bad player. You're playing Big Ten men's basketball. There is a certain talent caliber that you have to have. Where I think Iowa's having a difficult time is just finding ways for everybody to be rolling at the exact same time. And this is something that has been talked about since the beginning of the year. Bennett Sturtz has been Bennett Sturtz all year long. We haven't seen anybody else score in double figures consistently throughout this season. I was doing the math earlier, and the last time Iowa had more than 2 players in double figures was the win at Washington. So it's been a couple games, and ironically enough, the 2 games that have been taking place since that Washington game, Maryland, Purdue.
Yeah. There you see the numbers for Bennett Sturtz. They're obviously outstanding, but what we talked about before is that it has to be some of the quote-unquote supporting cast. I don't know what else to call them. We do have an audience question that kind of leads into, well, we've been discussing it. And the question goes basically, is basketball becoming soft, or are they actually seeing that many fouls? There were a lot of fouls against Purdue. Iowa was called for 19 personals. Purdue was called for 17 personals. I don't know. For me, just watching the highlights, Purdue's a very physical team. Do you think there could have been more or fewer fouls called? And if so, it leads into this other question we also got that we don't have on screen, is just, are these former Drake players physically good enough to compete with a Purdue, with a Nebraska, day in and day out?
It's such an interesting question. I mean, both of them are, truly, because it almost feels like fouls, in a sense, can be subjective. At least sometimes, like, you watch it from one angle, it looks like there's a foul, and then you watch it from a different angle, it looks like there's not a foul. And that's the hard part about being a referee. If I could not do one job in sports, it is be a referee in any sport. I will say that very clearly. That is not an easy job, and I do not blame anybody who very much gets stressed out about having to make those calls. I think where it can be really frustrating is that you have a team that is experiencing a lot of this for the first time. Fouls have been something that McCollum has talked about throughout this season, of understanding how they're called in the Big Ten, because it is different. It's not the same. And so I think that there is a learning curve. There's a learning curve that they're figuring out. Whether I think that they can compete consistently, that I'm leaning towards they're struggling. I don't want to say flat out no, but I am leaning towards they're struggling, because they don't have the experience that a mature Purdue team or a mature Michigan State team has, or a mature Michigan has, the now new number 1 team.
Yeah.
So it is a tricky balance, but I wouldn't say that there's necessarily something that they can fix. I think it's just something you have to adapt to, and it's part of, again, this whole rebuilding process that McCollum's been tasked with.
We'll keep a close eye on it. Talk about a little football coming up next on Iowa Live. welcome back to Pickle Palace. We talked men's hoops and women's hoops earlier in the show. We do want to talk a little football, Hawkeye football to be specific, because since the last time we spoke, several Hawkeyes were invited to this year's 2026 NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Madison Huritsik is our football beat writer for the Cedar Rapids Gazette, so we're very excited to talk a little ball with her. And let's start where it often starts with Iowa, along the offensive line. Logan Jones, Bo Stevens, Jennings Dunker, along with Caden Weechin are your 4 offensive invites to the Combine. Kind of no surprise that those 3 offensive linemen are NFL prospects.
Oh gosh, no. I think everybody kind of knew heading into this that if there were going to be a trio of Hawkeyes that got an invitation to Indianapolis in next week, it was going to be those 3. I do want to say I do think it is very entertaining since the end of the season and all of the Senior Bowl, the East-West Shrine Bowl have happened. You're starting to see some football fans that are maybe more on the NFL side take notice of the future prospects. So I do have to give a little bit of a shout out because I thought this clip was hilarious. The Jennings Dunker shout out that was on the New Heights podcast with Jason and Travis Kelce, and they just they raved about him. And granted, Dunker made a really, really good impression in the Senior Bowl, and so I think it's absolutely warranted.
Look at that man. That's a lineman.
But that is exactly what the conversation was on the podcast. So it is fun starting to see this next group of Hawkeyes start to take the step towards the NFL. I do think it's going to be really interesting to see what Caden Weechin does with the Combine, because I think there are going to be a lot of special teams units. They're going to be really interested in his speed and his ability to make plays happen. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. I have no doubt in my mind that the trio offensive linemen are going to be getting some phone calls here in the next couple weeks and going to be really enjoying some interviews in Indianapolis these next few days.
Yeah, smart teams, I think, are going to draft those 3 linemen. With Weechin, I think he's listed as a wide receiver.
Yes, he is.
I don't think he's going to be drafted, but like you said, if he comes to the Combine and impresses, I think a lot of teams might look at Weechin and say, could he be our punt returner maybe? Could he be like a Matthew Slater gunner, just making tackles because he's faster than anyone else? Maybe. Do you agree that he's not going to get drafted, but a smart team is going to pick him up?
I'm leaning towards yes. I am leaning towards yes. Do I think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to be a late round draft pick? Absolutely. Anything can happen. It's the NFL. But one thing I will say is that he did perform very well at the Shrine Bowl. He did impress a lot of people, and a lot of reporters took notice and made that very, very clear. So him getting an invite as a wide receiver doesn't necessarily surprise me because of how well he did in the Shrine Bowl. But I also will say that he is known for his punt return and kickoff return capabilities. You don't win the Jet Award twice. Just that doesn't happen. And so I do think there are going to be a lot of special teams coordinators that are going to be looking at him for that role as well.
Defense is obviously where a lot of Iowa NFL players come from. I'm guessing it's got to be like 60-40 defense over offense. And 4 defensive members of the Iowa or Phil Parker's unit have been invited. Could have been 5 with Aaron Graves. But you got Max Llewellyn, Carson Shire, Xavier Nwampa, and TJ Hall. We started here with Nwampa because I think he is the best NFL prospect. I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at that 4 or 5-star ranking in high school and think we can make this guy special. But the other 3, Shire, Hall, and Llewellyn, I think could be very good NFL players as well. Madison, take it where you want. When we talk about Iowa defensive players that could be NFL draft picks.
Well, it's interesting because all 4 of them do so many different things well, and I think that's why those 4 all received those Combine invites, is because they all have something so unique about them. I think Shire's performance in the Shrine Bowl, as well as what he did in the ReliaQuest Bowl, was great. I mean, the couple sacks he had against Diego Pavia in that game against Vanderbilt, I mean, that took everybody by notice, especially that first one. And so his ability to get to a quarterback quickly, especially at his position, his ability to just explode has been great. Same with Llewellyn. People have talked about Max Llewellyn's spin move as a defensive end for years. So you know that he's had the opportunity to show that off a little bit. With TJ Hall, Xavier Nwampa, the 2 of them, that Ball Hawks group, Phil Parker has really praised them throughout this past year that I've covered this team. So it really doesn't surprise anybody. I do think, though, the Aaron Graves not receiving a Combine invite was a bit of a surprise to me. You know, he's somebody who's been very, very consistent in his position. His leadership qualities have stood out for I mean, as long as anybody has known him truly. And so that was really one of the biggest names in that group that I really was surprised didn't receive a combine invite. Mark Gronowski was also somebody I was a little bit surprised about, especially after being named the ReliaQuest Bowl MVP and the Shrine Bowl MVP and then not getting an invite, especially when it's the literal winningest quarterback in NCAA history. He certainly has the resume for it. So those two names were definitely a bit of a surprise for me.
You know what I just realized? The thing that is similar between both those guys, Aaron Graves and Mark Gronowski, is that on the field, you may like them. I think in interviews with teams, you're going to love them. Mm-hmm. So I think if either of them get a chance to just sit down with an NFL general manager or an NFL scout, that scout or general manager is going to kind of fall in love with them. And any final thoughts, hot takes, predictions before we get into the combine?
Hot takes and predictions. Oh, goodness gracious.
Not a hot take show. No hot takes are necessary, but just final thoughts on those NFL potential guys.
One thing I will say is that just because the two of them didn't receive a combine invite doesn't mean that they're not going to get an opportunity somewhere. It might mean that their chances of actually getting a phone call during the NFL draft might decrease, but we've seen time and time again that, sometimes some of the best players in the NFL don't always start as the first round draft pick. Sometimes it's somebody that gets their opportunity, gets a rookie minicamp invite, and excels from there. So it wouldn't surprise me if, it ends up being 11 NFL Hawkeyes getting an opportunity this coming summer.
Madison Hurtzik from the Cedar Rapids Gazette, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
We're going to have the Cedar Rapids Roughriders high school team coming up next on Iowa Live.
Hi, I'm Frank Ballvance, joined today with Ben from Elite Fitness and Ability Physical Therapy. Ben, what are the advantages of having physical therapy and gym in the same location?
Yeah, when a patient
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mason 1 2 free. Mason 1 2 free.
Hi, I'm Frank Ballvance, joined today with Ben from Elite Fitness and Ability Physical Therapy. Ben, what are the advantages of having physical therapy and gym in the same location?
Yeah, when a patient is injured and pain is taking them away from their role in life, we have the ability with the gym right next door to get them back next door, get them moving, get them active again, whether that's returning to exercise, work, or even getting ready to return to a sport.
Very good. What options are available after a patient recovers from an injury?
We have personal trainers, we have small group settings, and then we also have beginner and intermediate classes, depending on your level that you want to get back to.
And how often are staffers available for folks?
Yeah, our physical therapy staff is often around, whether we're helping another patient or just trying to be present in the gym setting to answer questions, to give people quick tips or maybe an exercise or a stretch that's going to help them along their journey.
And how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, our website is chooseabilitypt.com.
All right, very good. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
All right, welcome back to Pickle Palace. As we can see, a lot of hockey players behind me. The Cedar Rapids Roughriders high school team. Very excited to have all of you on the stage with head coach Kevin Brooks. And for the two gentlemen on the microphones, can you please introduce yourself, first and last name, the school you go to, and your year at school?
All right. My name is Kai Patton. I'm a senior and I attend Iowa City Liberty.
Kai Patton, Iowa City
sir.
Liberty.
I am Mason Hodney, and I'm a senior, and I go to Linmar High School.
Linmar. Okay, cool. Coach Kevin Brooks, we're going to start with you. This is the high school team, the varsity and JV, but this is part of a youth club with the Cedar Rapids Roughriders. And man, I didn't know it until I came to interview you guys, but there's a youth hockey hotbed in Cedar Rapids. So can you tell me about the distinction between the team up here now and the entire club that you are the director of?
This is basically the pinnacle. This is where you try to get, whether you start off at a try hockey for free or Little Blackhawks, whatever it may be. You kind of work your way up through the different levels. Then you reach that high school level of the playing with U18 or below. So like I said, it's kind of the pinnacle of where you want to end up.
And a lot of these players on stage here, they've been playing since what, 4 or 5 years old?
Some of them have been on skates since they were 2. Yeah, as soon as they could walk. There's some families from all over the country here that grew up in, Minnesota, North Dakota, things like that, where there's hockey right from the start here, and that's how a lot of our players started.
All right, Kai and Mason, we're going to go to you next because, look, Iowa is not exactly a place known for hockey in the same way that perhaps Minnesota or Wisconsin are. But all of you love hockey. Some of you told me in my interview with you guys are obsessed with hockey. You're addicted to hockey. So Kai, I'll start with you. Mason, you can answer next. How did you get into hockey, and what made you fall in love with it?
Well, my dad grew up playing pond hockey in Iowa City, and one day he took us to the rink, and we loved it. We skated once, and we couldn't get out of the skates. And ever since then, we did learn to play in Coralville, and then we moved to Cedar Rapids to play, and it's been the best decision we've ever made.
Mason, go ahead.
Oh, well, my family, they're all from North Dakota, and I mean, hockey is just in their bloods up there. And then my dad, he was a big part of my life, and he just brought me over to the rink, brought me the skates, and then it just all started from there, and then boom, just everything happens.
Just boom, it all happened at once. And you guys obviously love hockey, but I know you guys love each other too. And a lot of what you guys have been telling me is it's friendships that keep you sticking around. So Kyle, start with you. What about these guys on stage, keeps you coming back to hockey? Because I know it's not just the sport. I know it's also these guys.
Well, they're just my brothers. They make me laugh. They make every moment so special. Every day I come to the rink and I just immediately am drowned in smiles. Like, it's just so fun hanging out with these guys. So I can never say no to this. I never want it to end. It sucks that it's ending so soon, but yeah.
Yeah, Mason, what do you like about coming to the rink every day?
Kind of like what Kai said, we're all one big family over here, and I enjoy every single day just hanging out with the guys on and off the ice. Just an awesome experience overall, just awesome. Also like Kai said, one of the best decisions of my life.
Hockey is a fun sport. Is there any particular goal either one of you remember? Basically just a top hockey moment when you think, I love hockey and here's why. What's that moment that stands out to you guys?
Well, I would say Friday night I scored in senior night, and that was pretty cool. But also I have my twin brother up here on the stage, and we both scored hat tricks. I wouldn't know the exact age, but we were pretty young, and it was really cool for that. It's one of my favorite memories.
Mason, you have a favorite memory?
Well, going off the hat tricks too, I scored a hat trick in Madison in the championship game for a tournament. It was amazing too, so very big moment.
He scored a hat trick, he scored a hat trick.
Yes.
Everyone's pushing their chips in the table. Now, what was that senior night like? I know it was last Friday, the 13th. Your senior night, so your last time playing on the ice at I'm on Ice Arena. What did that mean for you guys?
It was emotional. It was really cool to get a win. I just seeing my family on the ice and shaking all the hands of my teammates. It was very well coordinated. It was a very special moment, and it was a great day.
Well, I just got to say, it was so surreal just seeing everybody in the stands and just walking through the tunnel one last time. It just just being able to just see and just have all the moment all just at once, one more time, you know.
Is it cool that all of you come from different schools? A lot of you come from, rival schools, yet when you're on the ice together, you're all brothers, you're all one team?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I had a teammate last year who went to Iowa City High, and I hate that school. I'm a Bolt for life, so I always gave him crap for that. But on the ice together, I mean, we were best friends. We'd been playing together for a very long time, and he was a great kid. But I always let him know when the Bolts won, they meant business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, high school rivalries, they never end. Quick show of hands. I know you guys go different places. Anyone planning on playing hockey at the next level, either college or juniors? Just raise your hand.
Sure,
Sorry. Anyone? Okay, that's a pretty solid number. I mean, Kevin, this is a question for you. What is it, and you can pat yourself on the back a little bit, what is it about this team and your organization that can feed kids into the next level of hockey?
I think it's the culture. Number one, it's the attitudes. Like they make my job easy. I get to show up every day at the rink and get to do what I love to do. But at the end of the day, they bring the effort, the attitude, everything you just heard them talk about each other. When you have people showing up like that every day, your job becomes pretty easy. My job is just to give them the tools and the opportunities. Use some of the connections that I have to open door for them to run through.
This is a question for all three of you, but Kevin, we'll start with you first. What is it like to help the next generation of hockey players? Because you have young kids, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it's just doing what somebody did for me. I was very lucky. I was blessed to play for some very special coaches that affected me throughout my career, and able to give that back to this next generation. It's actually something we talk as a senior group for what they're going to leave to the group that comes after them. So it's very, very special.
Yeah, Kai and Mason, do you guys spend time with any younger kids, 7 or 8 years old? What's it like giving back in the same way I'm sure a lot of older kids gave back to you?
Yeah, we do Try Hockey for Free every year, which is a great event, and a couple of the guys always volunteer and help try to teach kids how to skate and those kinds of things. And I mean, it's always awesome doing that. Just trying to grow the game, especially in Iowa. I want everybody to be able to try this sport. So, yeah.
Mason, same question.
Well, when I'm over for the Try Hockey for Free and I just see the kids' faces, it's like it just reminds me of myself. And it's like I don't want to let them down. We just got to grow this game, and it's so personal here for me.
How many games, Kevin, do you guys have left?
We have 2 next weekend, and then we'll be off to state after that.
All right, that's very exciting. And that Try Hockey for Free night, what day is that?
That'll be March 7th.
March 7th. Mm-hmm. And as it says in the title, completely free, and kids can come in.
Yeah,
come in
ages
and play.
10 and under, we'll supply you with everything: sticks, gloves, helmets, skates, everything. Coaches out there to help kids, even if you've never stepped on the ice before. We encourage anybody that's ever, if you haven't even thought about it, come out. If you've thought about it, March 7th is your day to come.
Well, you don't want to see me on skates, I can tell you that for sure. Guys, we really appreciate you coming out. Everybody, give it up for the Cedar Rapids Roughriders Youth High School program and the varsity team. We'll have the Mount Vernon girls wrestling team on next on Iowa Live.
What's that? Say your name and count to 10. All right, Trevor Trendy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Pickle Palace. Welcome back to On Iowa Live. We're here at Pickle Palace and over on KCRG 9.2. We're also on YouTube. Our earlier segments, if you want to go back and rewind, we have the talking men's basketball, women's basketball, Iowa football combine invites, and we just talked to the Cedar Rapids Roughriders high school team, which was great, and their coach, Kevin Brooks. We have another varsity high school team on with us, and we're going to start with their head coach, Trevor Trendy, the leader of the Mount Vernon girls wrestling team, who took 4th place at state just last week. 5 girls on the podium. Coach Trendy, congratulations on yet another great season. This is one of the more consistent programs in the state of Iowa. You had 5 on the podium and 1 state champion who we'll get to in just a minute.
Yeah.
What does coaching this group of seniors especially mean to you?
Yeah, this group of seniors, there was 5 of them, and 4 of them have been in the program for 4 years, and Addie Wisner, state runner-up this year, has been in the program 3 years, and they just have set our program and raised it to a standard that, Libby Dix as well, just having girls having the success that they're having, it just raises the standard and the culture in our room, and the girls coming up through the middle school program, they know the standard, and it just keeps our program at a high level.
So that leads me into the next question, because obviously having good girls helps. Having good coaching helps. But there's got to be something that accounts for that year-to-year consistency and success. And it's not just in girls wrestling, it's in every sport. What is it, that secret sauce that you guys have on the mount there at Mount Vernon that accounts for the year-to-year consistency?
Well, to be honest, like you said, it does take having good girls, having good clientele, having good athletes. Definitely helps, but surrounding myself with phenomenal coaches helps every day. I get to help lead, but having those guys by my side definitely contributes a lot. And then I've been very fortunate the last couple of years having phenomenal seniors. Like I said, having a girl like Libby Dix that comes in every day and does the right things. Our team got to be around that. Then you have a girl like Gracie, Addie, Kirsten that kind of took those roles over and just set the standard every day. And then you have girls like Kate Martin that comes in as a freshman, getting to wrestle with Kirsten, and they compete in the battle every day. And I think that's the secret sauce.
How much more fun is it when you bring, 7 girls to state at Extreme Arena?
7.
How much more fun is it when it's 7 girls rather than 1 or 2 stars?
Yeah, that's half your team, right? And we only had 14 girls in our team, so yeah, we took half the girls, and it just makes the whole experience a lot of fun, and they get to have their practice room partners warming up with them before the state tournament. I think that helps a lot, instead of just having one and then having to have a different partner or whatever. So having all the girls, having 7 of them down in Coralville, and just having a lot of fun. We tend to have a lot of fun. So I always like to say work hard, play hard, and that's kind of what we do.
Chelsea, I know, shot a story with you guys just a little while ago.
Yeah.
Practice is in the wrestling season, it's an everyday thing, and it's not easy. Practice in girls wrestling and boys wrestling, that is, high school wrestling, is never easy. What do you love, and I won't ask you to speak for the girls, but what do you believe the girls love about coming into the wrestling room every single day?
Well, I preach a lot. My mentality for them is, every day you walk into that room, my goal for them is just to leave the room knowing you gave 100%, and not having any regret when you leave the room. It's kind of a thing I preach a lot. But we tend to joke around and have a lot of fun. But the girls know when to take it serious. But wrestling can be a grind. It can be really grueling. So when you try to find the fun in it, it makes that process a lot more enjoyable.
I see you in this video. You're getting sweaty. This is not an easy thing for you, wrestling these girls. And that leads me to a question. I know you wrestled, of course, in high school and in college.
Yeah.
At Cornell, was it?
Cornell College,
You wrestled at Cornell. When you see these girls over the last 4 years, it appears, at least to me, that everyone has gotten better from top to bottom. Do you see that too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a perk of being a little bit younger and having Chad's maybe a little bit older, but Chance and I are pretty young. But you know what? He still gets on the mat too. But having coaches that are willing to get, step onto the mat and help out the girls and be willing to get, a little sweaty, even though we're a tad older, I think that does help a lot. So
just a tad older. All right, we'll have some of those young guns, the Mount Vernon girls wrestling team. The rest of the team coming up next on Iowa Live.
Gracie Pinkney. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Adeline Wisner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Palace, the Mount Vernon girls wrestling team is here to take us home. The entire team is out here, but can the two ladies on the mic, can you guys introduce yourself and tell me your year at school?
My name is Gracie Pinkney, and I'm a senior.
And I'm Addie Wisner, and I'm also a senior.
All right, two seniors up here. Gracie, we are in the presence of greatness. Your 190-pound 1A individual state champion. Yeah, you guys can clap. We have a state champion here. 170, excuse me. Gracie, first off, when did you start wrestling?
I started wrestling in 8th grade.
Okay, in 8th grade. So you haven't been doing this forever, but you're doing this a long time. Did you ever think this could be a reality, that you would stand at the top of the podium, state champion?
Not really. I just was doing it for fun and trying to stay in shape, and didn't know I was going to come this far.
Just doing it trying to stay in shape for another sport? A lot of people do in other sports.
I was kind of doing it for dance. Okay. I thought I was going to have like a career in that, but guess not.
It's, classic, dance to wrestling. They're basically the same sport. What did that moment feel like? You get your hand raised at the end.
It felt amazing. I put a lot of work over the summer to get to where it was at, and it just felt incredible to get that win. That all my success I did is good.
How do your coaches and teammates instill that confidence in you? Because it seems like they have just as much confidence, if not more confidence, in you than you do.
Trendy pushed me a lot in practice, and just like they were always by the mat, always by my side every match I had, and it's just like our family is like, it's awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Addie Wisner. Anyone ever tell you your last name kind of sounds like a wrestling move?
No.
No? Well, I'm the first, and I'm probably the last. Addie, you send 7 girls to state, 5 of them on the podium. What do you think accounts for your team's success? It's obviously individually great wrestlers, but what makes you guys even better than the sum of your parts?
Well, we push each other on the mat and off the mat. I mean, we do a lot of conditioning and just like pushing each other in that, but also this is a family. We pray before every competition, and just knowing that this is more than just about wrestling and getting a pin or getting your hand raised, but it's about your teammates and just the faith we have in each other, and yeah.
Speaking of teammates, how much more fun is it to bring 7 girls than it is to bring 1 or 2 or to go alone?
I mean, it's way more fun. I've never been there with just a few girls, but it also helps you like stay in that mindset of like, you do the same routine every time. When you have 7 girls, it's not your whole team, but it feels more like a routine, like what you would have done during the season. So,
question for the two of you: wrestling is hard, practice is hard. What keeps you guys coming every day?
The team, just how positive we are and how we push each other. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's not just about winning or losing. It's about being there for each other, and I'm really gonna miss these girls next year. So.
I know wrestling is an individual event, but in dual meets especially, you guys are loud. Like, do you guys think you're one of the loudest on the bench teams out there in Iowa?
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe just Gracie. Maybe just Gracie.
One in particular. But that helps. I mean, when you hear your team cheering for you, you got to push just a little bit harder, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys are close on the mat, but I'm sure you're close off the mat too. Do you have any special team bonding activity, things you do off the mat to kind of take your mind off wrestling or to just bond Addie, you have your hand up your mouth. You tell me.
We like to do Just Dance.
You like to do Just Dance? Do you have a favorite song to do in Just Dance? I knew you were going to sing Rasputin. Love that song. All right. We don't have quite the room on the stage for any dance.
Gracie's the only dancer, so.
Yeah, to show off any dance. But on a serious note, how does being close off the mat help you on the mat?
Being close off the mat and like it's just like everybody's in a good mood and it's just awesome. Like that we have a friend outside of wrestling and we can go talk to them if there's something going on.
Yeah, I'd say again, like it just runs deeper than putting points on the board. It's knowing that I have this family of girls that I can have the memories from and also stay in contact with and just have that family for the rest of my life.
All right, real quick at the end. This is for all three of you. What is the future of Mount Vernon girls wrestling going to look like? Because you got some seniors graduating, but I know you have some good underclassmen too.
I guess I'll go first. We preach about leaving the program better than we found it, and I can, truthfully say these 5 girls have left it in an incredible spot. And I know these girls, the freshmen, sophomore, juniors coming up, are going to take the role that these girls have left for them and do an incredible job. So I'm super excited and looking forward to what's ahead.
Real quick from the two of you.
I would agree with everything he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bringing that many girls to state. I couldn't stop thinking about like all the girls back home watching and just wanting to be that girl someday. And I hope that we can just show that it's possible and that you don't have to wrestle your whole life to have success as well. Just go out and try new things and you never know what might happen.
All right, we are very excited. We were very happy to have you guys on, and we'll be same time, same place next week on Iowa Live.
And I mean, it was just a great experience. And so for me, it's a no-brainer to be able to do something like this.